Hi, I'm Marlene with X-Men Nation, and today we have our special guest, Dan Slott. You may know him from writing Avengers Initiative, The Amazing Spider-Man, and She-Hulk, among many other great comics. And if you don't know him, then go read his stuff because it's great.
Oh, thank you.
So, first...
Are we mic'd? Are we live? Can you hear us? Awesome!
First off, could you give us a little bit about your background and how you came to work in the comics industry?
How I came to work in the... I came to work in the comic industry by lying. I lied my way in. They had a college internship program. I had taken, way back when, I used to think I could draw and write comics too. So I'd take my portfolio around to local shows and people would look at it and they'd go, "You should write." I'd be like, "Okay." Zip it up. No, but I'd ask them, like, "How do you get to be a writer?" And they said, "It's way too hard. Because if you want to be an artist, you can show an editor your art samples and they can look at it and go, "This sucks," or "This is great," you know. But you can't just go like, "Here's my 20-page script. What do you think, Mr. Editor, Sarah?" No, because it's a really hard industry to break into. Why should they hire an unknown when they have a whole Rolodex filled with all these people they've worked with before? So it's a tough thing to kind of sneak in there, especially nowadays. They're hiring more and more people from outside, like Kevin Smith or Joe Straczynski, people like Alan Heinberg, who used to work on, who still works on Grey's Anatomy, and OC. So it's like they're getting people from outside, right. And people from the indie area, like Brian Michael Bendis. So it's really hard to kind of sneak in there. And I asked, like, how do you break in? And they said, you need to make contacts. Marvel has a college internship program. You should apply for that. And I had just graduated from college. And I went up to New York for one of my sister's weddings. And I showed up in Marvel and my best clothes, my best, Sunday shoes. And I applied for the internship. I had a meeting, and they sat me down. They're like, what school do you go to? And I'm like, I just graduated from, we can't use you. Oh, we're terribly sorry. We're not going to pay you. I'm like, that's fine. I just want to come in and learn the ropes. And they're like, no. We pay you by giving you college credit. If we can't give you college credit, we can't use you. Terribly sorry. I was there for like all of 5 minutes, and they shoved me out the door. I was all like, oh. I have twin sisters, and the next one was getting married 6 months later. So I was coming back to New York for my second sister's wedding, and I thought, they're not going to remember me from 5 minutes. So I went to one of my my old college teachers, had him write up a fake thing saying I was getting postgraduate credit, and I applied again, and they said, what school do you go to? And I told them the school I already graduated from. And then I went in and I became a college intern, and I got to work for Fabian Nicieza and Evan Skolnick, who later went on to be huge guys at Acclaim Comics, and Fabian, big X-Men writer, and it was great guys to work under. And I was there for about like 3-4 months working and making copies and running errands, and at one point they kind of went like, they came to me and said, we want to hire you for a staff job, but you have to go back to college.
Oh, wow.
No, I don't. They're like, what? I'm like, I lied. I've graduated. Here's my diploma.
Surprise!
Surprise!
Oh, man.
I've been lying to you the whole time. And I went, okay, cool. And they gave me the job.
What do you love most about your job?
Everything. There isn't a thing. The only thing. It's more like, what do you not like about the job? Because I love everything about the job. The only thing I don't like is the deadlines.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I don't like. With you look at She-Hulk and GLA and Spidey Torch, and even Thing, like the first series and things I was doing for Marvel, for superhero stuff, and you'll see that I was horrible. That you would get like 12 issues of She-Hulk in 13 months. You'd get, everything always had that one extra month, because I always took like a week here and a week there and a couple more days there. So it always kind of, and you can't do that nowadays. People want that book to come out when it comes out, especially working on 3 times a month Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You have a deadline, you make that deadline. So deadlines are the things that, they force you to do all the stuff you do in college, the all-nighters and the working around the clock and eating lots of junk food and drinking lots of coffee, and it gets done.
Have you always been a comic fan since you were a kid? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Totally. I knew who Spider-Man was, and I loved Spider-Man because he used to run the 67 cartoon in syndication when I was a little boy. I was thinking Spider-Man,
Yeah.
that one. And I just loved him. Something about Spider-Man. I just thought he was the greatest. And one day I'm biking from elementary school, and I'm biking past the 7-Eleven in my town, and they had a big sign in the window that Spider-Man was coming. I was at the right age where I just was like, Spider-Man is coming to my 7-Eleven? I just totally bought it. You know, a little Jewish boy who didn't have Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny, and I was primed. I was pumped for that. And I got off my bike, I didn't lock it, I ran in, I'm like, Spider-Man's gonna be here, Spider-Man's gonna be here. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, how do I meet Spider-Man? They're like, oh, he's gonna sign comic books. Where can I get the comic books for Spider-Man to sign? And they pointed to the spinner rack. And I'd been in that 7-Eleven like dozens of times, and I'd never noticed the spinner rack. And the minute they pointed to it, it was like the golden light hit it. And it was like, Ave Maria. And there it was. And I was just like, and I spent all day going, I had to find, first, I knew they cost money, and I had no money because I was a little boy.
Right.
And I went home, and I waited for my dad to get home from work, like perched. He had a really long commute. He'd get in. He'd usually be tired. And I'm all over him like, Dad, Spider-Man's coming to town, and there's going to be comics, and I don't have any money, and I need an allowance, so I need to buy comics. And he's like, and my dad was really cool. And he said, oh, you know, you're old enough. It was like 8. And he's like, I'll start you on an allowance. And he started me off on a quarter, and he gave me a quarter advance because that was the price of a comic back then. Wow. I am old. I am very old. And he gave me a quarter, and he gave me an advance for the next quarter, so I could buy 2, so I could have 2 comics for Spider-Man to sign. I bought Marvel Team Up number 38, and the Marvel Tales with Electro that I want to say is either 71 or 72. And because I spent all day, I had to find like the perfect comics.
Perfect one.
Going through the rack, and I showed up early. And the reason I showed up early and camped out and waited was I wanted to see Spider-Man swing in.
Oh, no.
And I'm like looking to the sky. I'm 8 years old in California. I'm like looking. I'm like, where's Spider-Man? Gotta find Spider-Man. And it's suburban California. There are no tall buildings, and it suddenly dawns on me. I'm like, there's nothing for him to swing off of. How is he going to get here? And this was the 70s. And if you can imagine 2 guys in the 70s who had access to a Spider-Man costume. So this was right near a freeway exit, and I saw it. And this is what screwed me up for life. There was a red pickup truck, and one of these guys was in the Spider-Man costume, arms akimbo, waving to people on the freeway, and people are honking 70s like, yeah! Because they're just goofing off. And it comes off the freeway, spins into 7-Eleven. Spider-Man jumps out of the back of the pickup truck, lands in a squat right next to me. I'm the only one around. Then gets up, walks in, and he kind of nods to me. And I bought it. Of course Spider-Man would come riding off the back of a pickup truck through 50-mile-an-hour traffic. Of course. How else would he get there?